Hi, Marie here from potterycrafters.com. In this video, I'll show you 3 quick and easy glaze combinations and ways that you can pour and dip some brushable glazes. All the glazes and supplies I use are listed for you below in the show notes. With that said, I used Amaco No. 11 A-Mix stoneware white clay to make the mugs. Before any glaze touches the bisqueware, there are a few things that you need to do. Let's get started. First, and very important, is to make sure your hands are clean and dry, or wear gloves. Gloves protect your pottery if your hands get oily. I mainly wear them to keep my hands from drying out when I'm glazing. Next is to wipe the mugs with a clean, damp sponge to remove the ceramic dust that's on the pottery from the bisque firing. You'll want to apply wax resist or film resist on the bottom of your pottery. I'm applying film resist to all 3 mugs. Film resist contains no wax or oils, so you can peel it off any area you may have accidentally put on your bisqueware. I apply film resist with a glove because it ruins my brushes. If you have any other ideas on how to apply it, feel free to let me know in the comments section below. Before pouring the glaze, you can apply masking tape to the rim so the glaze doesn't drip on the outside of the mug. My friend showed me this technique. I apply 2 layers of tape so the mug stays upside down while the glaze drips down and dries on the inside. For the first mug, I'm going to pour Amaco Honey Flux on the mug and dip with Amaco Deep Sienna Speckle. Always make sure you pour the glaze through a strainer so any clumps of glaze or debris doesn't end up on your pottery. This is what you don't want on your pottery. Then use a blender to mix your glaze. When pouring on brushable glazes, the glaze should be the consistency of heavy cream, so you may have to add a tiny amount of distilled water. For the first mug, I want the Honey Flux glaze to be a little thicker because the Deep Sienna Speckle doesn't flow as much as other glazes do. So you can leave the cap off or let it sit in a bowl, as I did with this small amount of Honey Flux. You will want the consistency to be more like hot fudge. Now that all the prep work is done, pour the Honey Flux glaze inside the mug. Then slowly rotate the mug and pour out the extra glaze. Keep the mug upside down. I place it on a plastic lid to let the extra glaze drip off and dry for a few minutes. Once the glaze stops dripping and dries a bit, remove the tape on the rim. I found using scissors works great. Just snip a little and peel off. Now pour the Honey Flux on the outside by holding the foot of the mug. I started pouring after I saw Dante from Earth Nation Ceramics pour his brushable glaze in his videos. Now place the mug upside down so the glaze flows towards the top of the mug. Otherwise, the glaze can get too thick on the bottom and melt off the mug. After the Honey Flux is dry to the touch, I'm going to dip the mug in Amaco Deep Sienna Speckle. Dip the mug 1/3 of the way down and make sure you get the handle too. You'll want your dipping glaze to be the consistency of heavy cream. Keep the mug upside down for a few minutes to let the extra glaze drip off. I'm removing the film resist. I like that it peels off so it doesn't burn off in the kiln. After I let the glaze dry completely, I'm going to fire it to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. Let's see how it turned out. The Deep Sienna Speckle flowed down the way I wanted it to. With just a pour and a dip, it turned out like my test tile. Because the honey flux was thicker, the deep sienna speckle was able to flow down the mug and create this cool pattern. As you can see on this mug, the honey flux was not thick enough to make the deep sienna speckle flow. I like this mug better. The glaze flowed right to the edge of the foot. The inside of the mug also looks good. Nice and smooth. That's why I pour the glaze on the inside whenever I can. Plus, it's a lot faster than brushing. If you like what you see, you can hit the like button anytime during this video. For my next mug, I'm going to pour with Spectrum Sangria and dip with Spectrum Pearl White. I'll tape this rim also. Pour the sangria glaze inside the mug, then slowly rotate the mug and pour out the extra glaze. Keep the mug upside down and place on a plastic lid to let the extra glaze drip off and dry for a few minutes. There is another way you can pour on the outside of the mug instead of holding the bottom. Once it's a little dry, you'll want to pour the glaze on the handle first. Tilt the handle downwards and pour the glaze on one side. Then flip the mug over and pour glaze on the other side. I'll brush one coat of sangria on the bottom of the mug. Snip and peel off the tape. Then pour the glaze on the outside of the mug. Holding the handle makes it easier to pour around the mug, especially if you have shorter fingers. Oops, I didn't tilt the top of my mug downward enough. I'll brush the extra glaze off right away because this is a floating glaze and it may run in the kiln if the glaze is too thick. Finish pouring the sangria and set it aside. Once the sangria is dry to the touch, time to dip the rim with Spectrum Pearl White. Because these are both floating glazes, you only need to dip the rim and the top of the handle. I use this glaze a lot with other glazes. It works well with Amaco and Mako glazes also. Hold the mug upside down for a few minutes to allow the extra glaze to drip off. I'll remove the film resist, then allow the mug to dry completely before firing to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. Let's see how it turned out. I'm very pleased with this combination. The pearl white glaze flowed right down to the foot of the mug. It turned out the same as my test tile. If you want to know how to make test tiles, I have a video on a few ways to make test tiles and how to use them. I left a link for you below in the show notes and on the end screen. The bottom turned out nice also. The handle looks great. These Spectrum floating glazes do flow nicely. Beautiful mug. For the third mug, I'm going to pour on Amaco Honey Flux again and dip the mug in Amaco Textured Turquoise. Instead of using tape, you can also use a large bowl that your mug can fit in. Pour the glaze in your mug, then place the bowl over the mug. Flip the bowl over and allow the glaze to flow out of the mug. I'll let it dry a bit upside down on the plastic lid. It's nice to know there are different ways to pour your glaze. Pour the glaze on the handle next. Tilt the handle downwards and pour on one side. I found this way is easier than holding the base of the mug. Then flip the mug over and pour the glaze on the other side. Dante uses dipping tongs. I'm going to have to try that sometime. As you can see, the honey flux for this mug is not as thick. That's because the textured turquoise glaze I'm using to dip the rim flows more. Once the honey flux is dry to the touch, it's time to dip the rim in textured turquoise. Dip the rim a third of the way down, and the handle too. As I'm letting the extra glaze drip off, I'll remove the film resist. It is fun to peel off. Hold it upside down for a few more minutes, then let it dry completely and fire to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. Let's see how it turned out. Beautiful. See how the glaze flowed all the way down the mug? I love the color that the honey flux and textured turquoise produced. As you can see, the textured turquoise did flow more, so I didn't need the honey flux to be as thick as the first mug. The mug is close to my test tile, but I did dip more textured turquoise on the mug than I did on the test tile. The inside is smooth. This glaze flowed nicely down the handle. I love the look of these two glazes together. Which glaze combination did you like the best? Which one are you going to try? The honey flux and deep sienna speckle? The sangria and pearl white? Or the honey flux and textured turquoise? Or all three? I am pleased with the way they all turned out. It sure is a lot faster to pour and dip than it is to brush glaze. When I brush, I apply 3 to 4, sometimes even 6 layers of glaze, depending on the glaze combination. I can't pour all the time because there are times that require brushing that pouring and dipping can't produce. I hope I've helped give you some more fun glazing combination ideas and save you some time if you don't have time to brush glaze. Now head on over to my Making Pottery Glaze Test Tiles video, or my Throwing 5 Different Shaped Mugs on the Wheel video. If you do, I get to play with more clay. Let's stay dirty.